It's 10 o'clock. We'll get started. Om. गणानान्त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतान् शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सेदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामविद्यवते ॐ गणेशाय नमः ॐ सरस्वत्यै नमः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये वागीशाद्य सुमनसः सर्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यं नत्वा कृतकृत्या स्युः तं नमामि गजाननं वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय कोटिसूर्यसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिम् द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यकेशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् यस्य सन्निधिमात्रेण सर्वे शिष्याश्च सेवकाः कर्मक्षेत्रे प्रवर्तन्ते चिन्मयं तं नमाम्यहम् चिन्मयं तं नमाम्यहम् Hari Om everybody. Welcome back to our weekly Vedanta classes on Viveka Choodamani. We will get started with our Mangala Charana Shloka. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tama Gocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum pranatosmyaham. In the last several weeks, out of the 7 questions that the student had asked, we went through the details on what is anatma. Then we have explored as to what is Atma. First, we will chant verse number 49. Ko nama bandhah katamesha agatah katam pratisthasya katam vimokshah ko savanatma paramah ka atma tayor vivekah katametadutyatam. Out of these 7 important questions that the student had asked, we have covered question 5. First, ko savanatma. What is this anatma? As a part of that, we had covered the 3 shariras, stula, sukshma, karana sharira. We understood that they are all made of inert matter, jada. And basically, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji told us in one summary shloka that all of this body, the Gnanendriyas, the Karmendriyas, Prana, Mana, Buddhi, up to the unmanifest universe, are all anatma. They belong to the category of asat, unreal. Then we saw question number 6, Paramaha ka atma. What is this nature of Paramatma? We saw all of the reference verses of Atma Nirupanam. We looked at several selected verses of Viveka Choodamani. We looked at all of the Upanishadic references for that, Bhagavad Gita references for that, and some from Atma Bodha and Upadesha Sara references as well. If you have missed any of those, all of those are on Chinmaya Ramanam. You can go watch that in detail. But we saw a detailed explanation of the various techniques that the scriptures have employed to point to us the Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa of Atma. So today, instead of recapping, let us just chant these verses so that they create those impressions in our mind, so that it helps to recall the meaning behind it from our last couple of weeks. Let's start with verse number 124. It should not take that long. Okay, 124. In 124, he states, Atate sampravakshyami swarupam paramatmanah yadvignaya naro bandhan mukta kaivalyamashnute. So from 124 onwards, he started narrating the real nature of Atma. He said, realizing which, yadvignaya, bandhan mukta kaivalyam ashnute, becomes free from bondage, attains liberation. Then in 125, Astikastit swayam nityamaham pratyaya lambana avastatrayastakshi san Panchakosha Vilakshanaha. In this, we saw Atma as the witness principle, Sakshi principle. We also saw a beautiful Upadesha Sara reference for this 125 verse. When we do the inquiry on that Ahampada, the origin of that I, where did it come from? We said, Ahaminashabad, Ahamahantaya, Spurati Hrutsvayam, Paramapurna Sat. That whole Satvastu will reveal itself. In 126, Yo vijanati sakalam jagrat swapna sushuptishu buddhi tad vritti sadbhavam abhavamahamityayam. This presence of this God principle in me, that is all-knowing, omniscient principle, is not somewhere in cloud 9, it is me. One 27. Yaf pashyati stvayam sarvam yam na pashyati kaschana yaschetayati buddhyadi natadyam chetayatyayam. In this verse, we saw the self-illuminating principle or the nature of that aspect of Atma, the all-knowing principle of Atma. In 128, Yena Vishwamidam Vyaptam Yam na Vyapnoti Kinchana Abharupamidam Sarvam Yam Bhantamanubhatyayam. We saw in this the all-pervading nature of Atma, Yena Vishwamidam Vyaptam, that by which the entire universe is pervaded and nothing else pervades that. And we saw a beautiful reference from Kathopanishad on this verse of 128. Moving to 129. Yasya sannidhi matrena dehendriyamanodhiyah vishayeshu swakiyeshu vartante preritayiva. In this verse, he indicated the niyama niyamika sambandha, meaning how Atma enlivens this body-mind complex. Yasya sannidhi matrena, by its mere presence, the organs of actions, the organs of perception, all of them do their respective functions. Dehendriya manodhiyaha, meaning body, sense organs, mind, intellect. And we saw this beautiful reference again from Kenopanishad, where the disciple asks the teacher as to who is directing all this, on whose command all these organs are able to do their function. Who is the director of all this? We also saw a beautiful similarity of this verse to Atma Bodha, Atma Chaitanya Mashritya, Dehendriya Manodiya, Swakriyarteshu Vartante, Surya Lokam Yatha Janaha. Meaning, like people perform various activities under the light of the sun. Swakriyarteshu Vartante. Powered by this Atma Chaitanya, these indriyas perform their functions. The mana, the buddhi, they are all basically jada, inert matter. They do not have sentiency on their own. So the activities under the sun, that example, what it shows, sun does not care whether one is engaged in the activity of service, filled with love, or whether they're engaged in activity filled with hate or a war. This shows how sun is asanga. He is unattached. We also saw beautiful reference of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter. Mayadhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam. Meaning, Bhagavan Shri Krishna said, everything in this world is moving, whether it is moving or unmoving. They operate under the guidance of me, operate under the guidance of the Lord. Moving on to verse number 130 that we covered last week. Ahankaradi dehanta vishayascha sukadayah vedyante घटवद्येन nityabodhasvarupina. So this verse again established the Nitya Swarupa of Atma, the eternal nature of Atma. Moving on to number 131 that we covered last week. Yeshontaratma Purushah Puranah Nirantara Kanda Sukhanubhutihi Sadaikarupa Pratibodhamatro Yene Shita Vagasavascharanti. Here, the Atma is pointed out as the innermost self, Antaratma. Puranaha, meaning he is the most ancient, meaning he is beyond time. Kalatita, Nirantara, Akhanda, Sukha Anubhutihi. He is unbroken, uninterrupted, infinite bliss. Sada Eka Rupaha. He is uniform, meaning he is changeless. Bodhaswarupaha, meaning Atma is that pure awareness. By his command, all other organs function. We need to remember that. So by its mere presence, all of the physiological functions, all activities go on. A lot of meditative pointers in these verses. That's why I am taking time to repeat them. In verse number 132, Atraiva Sattvat Manidhi Guhayam Avyakrita Akasha Vuru Prakasha Akasha Vuchai Ravivat Prakashate Swatejasa Vishwamidam Prakashayan. He sits in his charming splendor. Akasha Vruchair Ravivat Prakashate Swatejasa Vishwamidam Prakashayan. Brightly shining like that sun. That's why we called him the light of light, the divine light within us. And in 133, Gnata Manoham Kruti Vikriyanam Dehendriya Prana Kruta Kriyanam Ayognivatta Nanuvattamano Na Cheshtate Na Vikaroti Kinchana. Again, the all-knowing principle of Atma, in the light of that Atma Swarupa, radiating in and through these layers of anatma, taking their form as though na chestate na vikaroti kinchana, it neither acts, it is akarta, but it appears to be acting and changing, but it is changeless, which we saw in the next shloka. न जायते नो म्रियते न वर्धते न क्षीयते नो विकरोति नित्यः विलीयमानेऽपि वपुष्यमुष्मिन् न लीयते कुम्भ इवाम्बरम् स्वयम्. It is neither born, na jayate, nor dies. It neither grows nor decays. It is eternal. It does not undergo any change, no modification. And the original mantra for this was from the Kathopanishad with a slight variation, also told by Bhagavan Sri Krishna in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We saw that na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita van bhuyah अजो नित्य शाश्वतोयम पुराण है न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. It does not die. When the gross body dies, bodies come, they go, but Atman is Nitya, ever remains. So in this verse, he also gave a beautiful illustration. Kumbha iva ambaram swayam. What happens to the pot space? We had a little bit of discussion on that. When the pot is broken, it merges with the total space, indicating Atma is karya karana vilakshanam, distinct from the cause and the effect. Then 135, we saw प्रकृति विकृति भिन्न शुद्ध बोध स्वभावः सदसदिदमशेषं भासयन् निर्विशेषः विलसति परमात्मा जाग्रदादिष्वस्था अहमहमिति साक्षात् साक्षी रूपेण बुद्धेः. The Supreme Self is Prakriti Vikruti Bhinnaha. It is free from the modifications of the nature. Shuddha Bodha Swabhavaha. It is of the nature of that pure awareness. It illumines everything in its presence. Sad Asad Idam Ashesham Bhasayan. It illumines the cause, it illumines the effect. Because Atma is nirvishesha. It is free from that differentiation. It illumines all my three states of existence. Jagradavastha, Swapna, Sushupti. How? Aham, aham iti. Sakshat, Sakshi Rupena Buddhehe. It is that changeless, immortal, constant that manifests as the awareness, witness in my buddhi. And we are that. So with all that Atma Nirupanam, we also saw, how do I realize that? We saw that in that 136. Niyamita manasamum tvam swamatmanamaatma ayamahamiti sakshat viddhi buddhi prasadat jani marana taranga para samsara sindhum pratar bhava krutartho brahma rupena samstha. Niyamita manasa, by disciplining this mind that is restless, a controlled mind, buddhi prasadat, with a purified intellect. This is what we have been talking about in terms of chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata. Finally, he concluded saying, the self directly we should know. Sakshat Vidhi, that Atma Sakshatkara, meaning that direct realization. So when we read this Antaratma, although literal translation means innermost self, Atma, we should look at it as not something outside me, not something inside me. Atma is me. That's Swa Anubhava, that direct experience with that purified intellect, Buddhi Prasada. When we realize this self, Jani Marana Taranga Para Samsara Sindhum Pratara, meaning that crossing. We'll cross this boundless ocean of samsara, whose waves are Jani Marana, Janana Marana, birth and death. Now, that concludes the topic of Atma Nirupanam. With that, let us today enter our next topic, where Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji begins to answer the question, the first question, Konama Bandha, what is this bondage? What is its nature? So before we enter the topic of this topic through Viveka Choodamani, a little bit of introduction is needed, especially for those who have just come into the group. We need to give them a little bit of platform. Now that we have understood what is anatma, what is the nature of anatma, which is what is not self, we also know now what is the nature of Atma. Because Vedanta told me that you are Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. It told me that. It said you are Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Atma. You are eternal. But, excuse me, sir, I don't feel that way. But I feel I am limited. Alpagna. I feel I am finite. I feel I am a limited entity. All of us. When our children, when they are growing up, what do we tell them? We tell them, look here, beta, don't put yourself down. We encourage them. We tell them, you have infinite potential. Sky is the limit for you. We tell them, shoot the stars, at least you will hit the moon. All these are words of encouragement. Why do we do that? To unleash their hidden talent, to unleash their hidden potential that they don't know. Similarly, in Vedanta, when we feel limited, it is called as parichinnatva, a sense of limitation, jiva bhava. Our rishis have analyzed this and they say there are three types of limitations we feel. Limitations due to space, desha paricheda or parichinnatva. Limitations due to time, kala paricheda. Limitations due to objects, objectal limitation or vastu paricheda. Because in my ignorant state, due to my avidya or ajnana, I feel I am limited by space. I make statements like I am in Arizona, or some might say I am in Michigan, I am in my office, I am at home. I consider to be a tiny speck in this big scheme of universe. These are all limitations, examples. But Vedanta tells me what? That our true nature is that of pure self, which is all pervading, infinite, not conditioned by space. Then the second aspect is the kala paricheda, meaning all objects in this creation have a beginning and an end, adi and ananta. Pay attention to this aspect of the analysis, please. I feel I am limited by time. But Vedanta tells me that I am nitya, eternal. I am unborn, birthless. But my experience is contrary to that I am born at a particular point of time. I have a lifespan of time. I will die in a future point of time. I have a birthday and I know the death in future is certain. Kala paricheda. And the third aspect is there is vastu paricheda, meaning it includes objects and beings. So Vedanta teachers have analyzed this. These differences that are perceived, Veda Bhava, by the mind broadly under three categories. The first one is Sajatiya Bheda, meaning I see the differences between beings. I perceive differences between beings and objects of the same species. For example, in human beings, I see the difference between a man and a woman. I see the differences in attributes of the individuals, in height, build, their skin color, so many differences we see. Sajatiya Veda. Then there is Vijatiya Veda. We perceive differences amongst objects between different species. For example, I see the obvious difference between a human and an animal, like a cat or a dog. And then there is the Swagata Vedha, the third variety. The difference when within an object. Like I see the difference between my hands, my legs, my other limbs or other organs, so many differences. But when I studied Tattva Bodha, it told me the nature of Atma, that I as Atma is devoid of all these three limitations. Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata, Vedha, Rahita Atma. It is devoid of any limitation. So are you with me until now? But because of my ignorance or avidya, agnana, I experience the self as endowed with all sorts of limitations, all sorts of differences. This limited perception of an individual in Vedanta, it is called as Jiva Bhava, or a notion of individual being. Parichinnatva. And what is the result of this mistaken identity? This unlimited self has mistaken itself to be a limited individual or an ego because of this illusory entity called ahankara. I have created a reality, I've given a reality to the world of objects, world of beings, and then to pile on to that my raga, my dvesha, my likes, my dislikes that are arising out of my gunas, my karma palas. I superimpose all of this, including my raga, dvesha. Then I start to become dependent on the external world for my happiness, for my comfort. I am always fearful of sorrow, pain, loss, and I go through agitations, inner turmoil, restlessness. So this notional identity, this delusional identity, this has created all sorts of emotions and commotions in my life. This is called bandhana in Vedanta. Let us analyze this a little further, a little deeper. It starts with this, avidya, and it gets strengthened by two factors. Vedanta tells me it has two factors. Anatmani, atma buddhi. It is the notion that this anatma is atma. That is me. This is all our autobiography. Secondly, it gets strengthened by the second factor, jagati satyatva buddhi. This world, its objects, they are real, they are permanent. So far, are you with me? So what happens in short? With this identification with this anatman, I have a sense of doership, kartrutva, and the doer. Then I have a sense of enjoyership, bhoktrutva, goes deeper and deeper into this ocean of samsara. So this notion of individuality, this jiva bhava, this sense of finitude, this sense of limitedness is due to what? Avidya. Mula avidya, ignorance, which is considered to be the root cause of our bondage. So in Vedanta, what do we do? To illustrate that, we give you two examples which you have all seen already many times over. In the rope and the snake, and the post and the ghost. In the rope and the snake example, a traveler in twilight or in their backyard steps on this rope, or we can say in the modern day, a garden hose, mistakes it for a snake. He is frightened, fearful, until a wise man comes, sheds some light on it, shows that it is only a rope. Similarly, mistakes this for a post for a ghost. Therefore, this avidya, this ajnana, is the primary cause, the root cause for bandhana, bondage. It creates a twofold effect. We saw anatmani atma buddhi. What does this do? It creates a notion of the self in the not self. To say it another way, this is the misapprehension caused by ignorance. What it does, it creates identification with my gross body. It creates identification with my subtle body. It creates identification with my causal body. And I own it up. And jagati satyatva buddhi, the notion I give reality to this world, it creates the reality given to the names and forms, nama, rupa, the world of objects, world of beings, world of emotions, all seem real. For this, the cure is only knowledge alone. Atma Gnana, how the traveler awakened that it was only a rope, that illusion was gone. Only that knowledge of Atma can put an end to this primordial ignorance. Just like we shed that light alone can remove that darkness, we have actually seen this in Atma Bodha. When we studied Atma Bodha, we saw that this ajnana or ignorance is a notion. Bhranti janya tadatmya indribdrishya viveka. It can be rediscovered, he said, by right knowledge. Parichinna iva gnanat tannashe sati kevalah swayam prakashate hyatma meghapaye amshumaniva. Atma Bodha, 4th verse. Parichinna iva agnana. Same word, parichinnatva. Because of this notional ignorance or agnana, the self appears to be parichinna, finite. Tannashe sati kevalaha. When this ignorance is destroyed, kevalaha, that which is absolute, that which is infinite, swayam prakashate. It reveals itself. It shines itself. How? He gave a beautiful example. Mega paye amshumaniva. Just like that amshuma, that Surya Bhagavan, sun reveals itself when the cloud is blown away by that wind. Mega apaye, when that cloud moves away, it is self-evident. Agnana kalusham jivam gnanabhyasat vinirmalam. By that constant practice of this Atma Gnana Vichara, vinirmalam, it purifies that egocentric self. And then what happens? Vinirmalam krutva swayam nashir. We see this example of jalam kataka renuvat. Atma Bodha again. That powder of that kataka nut, if you put it on the surface, what happens? It becomes denser and denser, and it starts to settle down, carrying along with it all of the dirt and the muddy impurities to the bottom. Now, with this much introduction to the topic of bondage, let us enter into Viveka Choodamani, and we will cover verse number 137. Atranatmanyahamiti matirbandayeshosya pumsah. Atranatmanyahamiti matirbandha eshosya pumsah. Prapto agnanat janana marana klesha sampata hetuhu. Prapto agnana janana marana klesha sampata hetuhu. Yenaivayam vapuridam asat satya mityatma buddhya pushyatyukshatyavati vishayais tantubih kosha krudvat. One more time. अत्रानात्मन्यहमिति मतिर्बन्ध एषोऽस्य पुंसः प्राप्तो ज्ञानजननमरणक्लेश सम्पातहेतुः येनैवायं वपुरिदमसत् सत्यमित्यात्मबुद्ध्या पुष्यत्युक्ष्यत्यवति विषयैस्तन्तुभिः कोशकृद्वत्. अत्र आत्मनि अहम इति मतिर बंध एषोऽस्य पुंसः. Identifying, very musical verse, identifying the self with the not self. And what causes this? Ignorance. Prapto agnana. This mistaken identity with the not self. Due to what? Avidya. Agnana. So this bondage is the superimposition of the self on the not self. That adhyasa. This is anatmani atma buddhi. What does this do? This brings in the miseries of birth and death. Birth and death. Janana marana klesha sampata hetu. Hetu means karana. Main reason. Because of this, we are thinking that I am the body, and its identification as the real thing. So much so, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji says, most of our lives, we are spending time on bathing it, beautifying it. He just gives two examples. There are many more that happens. Slowly, we are bound like Tantubihi hi kosha krudvat. Meaning, see this silkworm or this caterpillar, it builds its own cocoon through this thread. From its own saliva, it weaves that thread. And what does it do? It goes on doing that, and it gets caught up in its own cocoon. A very beautiful example illustrated in Vedanta, how we get sucked up with our body complex. Like that, we get engrossed in our own body, in our own sense gratification, that we get deeper and deeper into this ocean of samsara. This is the root cause of bondage. Actually, I want to expand a lot more on this verse, and one more. We will stop here today. We will expand a little more on this verse in our next class. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrutyorma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat. May all be happy, may all be healthy, may all see auspiciousness, may none suffer. Om, peace, peace, peace. Hari Om. Please stay back for our interactive session if you can. I would appreciate that. Thank you.